We are back with another of my Paint Along holiday cards. Today we're going to be painting this sweet little skiing penguin. To start off, I'm going to wet the belly of the penguin. I'm going to avoid the area of the penguin poles that he is holding, but if you happen to get those wet, it's okay because we're going to paint over those in a darker color later on, so it shouldn't be too big of a deal if those areas get wet as well. Once we've wetted down the entire penguin belly, we're going to start by dropping color into our penguin, much in the same way as we did with our snowman. If you've seen that tutorial already, we're going to make our penguin's belly and the snow very, very colorful. So the first thing we're going to do is wet our blue paint, and we're going to come in right here and we're going to tap and brush in some blue paint all along the left side of our penguin and along the belly. The left side of the penguin will be our darker side, so that's going to be the area that will have more color on him. And just as we did with the snowman, he'll have lots of color on his belly, but by the time we're finished, it will still look like a very white penguin belly, just with some extra interest. So again, we're going to tap in some blue paint here and there and spread it out as you wish. We want the right side to be lighter. And once we've done that, we're going to drop in some purple paint. And I apologize because I bumped my camera here, so it's shaking a little bit. I'm going to wait for that to calm down and we'll continue on. After you tap in some purple, then you can just begin to blend it out slightly, a little bit into your blue. Keep in mind that it is nice to have some separation between the pigment colors. So don't blend it too terribly much because the paint will blend together on its own as it dries, and that's kind of part of what makes watercolor so beautiful, is letting the paint itself. Okay, now that we've done that, we're going to add some yellow along the right side of our penguin belly. So that area should still be damp, but if yours dried, you can paint first with water and then paint over it with yellow. We're going to try to keep the yellow somewhat away from our blue to make sure that it just reads as yellow and it doesn't start looking too green. We don't want to mix the yellow and the blue very much, but we can mix we can mix our purples and our blue together if we'd like more of a mixture on the right side. But again, kind of just let that yellow sit on the page and leave it alone. While the belly of the penguin is drying, we're going to begin painting in the penguin's skis. We're going to take a watery mixture of our purple paint, and we're going to paint the top of the skis first. So just carefully paint around the feet if you can. Most importantly, just don't paint any of the purple along the left and the right side into the snow. But if you do, again, you can pick that up with a paper towel and some water on a clean brush. If you do happen to go over the line on the penguin's feet, don't worry too much. You can just leave it because those are going to be black later on. And the bottom part, the round part at the front of our ski, that's going to be a darker purple. So again, if you go over the line in that area, don't stress at all because we're going to paint over it with a darker color later. On the back part of the ski on the right side, we're going to tap in a little extra pigment to make that area slightly darker. It's behind our penguin, so it would be a little bit in the shade. While the skis dry, we're going to paint in our penguin's beak. Just a little bit of straight orange color will do, and a couple brush strokes, and you're done. The next step is to paint in the penguin's earmuffs. We're going to come in with our red paint and just fill that in on the left-hand side. It'll be a nice dark bright red. And then we're going to very carefully paint along the thin line across the top, connecting the two earmuffs. This might take you a little moment. Really try to make sure you're very careful as you paint along this line so that you don't go outside of the line or don't go outside of the line very much. Red pigment is a little harder to lift from your watercolor paper, so if you do go outside the line, you might only be able to lift up that color to a pink, so really take your time here. When we get to the right side earmuff, we're going to just paint our dark red paint in a little bit of a line along the left, and then we're going to blend that line of color out with clear water, with fresh clean water. And I also left a little bit of a line along the right side with no paint at all. Now we're going to paint in our skis with that same red paint. You might want to get your paint a little bit thicker for this because the ski is very thin. It's a very thin line. And if our paint is a little bit thicker, it might help us to paint in this tiny line more carefully and have less of a risk of the paint going outside the line. So the ideal thickness of your paint would be that of an ink. So if you wet your paint and then smear it around a little bit in a dish and it's more of an inky type of texture thickness to it, then that's about where you want it. And then you're just going to very carefully paint in the ski poles. I started with mine with just painting from the penguin's wing down and then painted the upper part of the pole afterward. If you are enjoying this video, please like the video and be sure to subscribe. Every like, comment, and subscribe really helps me out a lot. In addition, if you have any questions about this tutorial or any of my other tutorials, please be sure to leave a comment below. I do read all of the comments and respond to all of them, so hopefully you'll get your question answered. Now that the skis are dry, we're going to come back in with a really thick purple paint, and we're going to paint the front tip of the skis on each side. So just follow along that line and paint it in as carefully as you can. If you find that at any point during these videos that I am just painting too quickly for you, please feel free to just pause the video until you catch up, or reel it back if you need to and watch it a few times. After we finish painting the skis, we're going to begin painting the penguin's face, and we're going to paint his face in a similar way that we did his belly. We're going to begin by wetting down the entire face. You do want to avoid the eyes, so just wet down the area around the eyes only. And then we're going to drop in some blue pigment along the left side of the face only. This will help give our penguin form. And after we drop in some of that color, we're going to bring the color down around his chin and then slowly blend that color out with a clean brush. Once you've blended everything out nicely, and while the penguin's face is still wet, we're going to come in with a little bit of our red. We want this to be a watery down red mixture, so just a tiny bit of pigment on your brush and more water than pigment. We're going to just tap around the area of the cheek of the penguin. We're going to do this on both sides so that we're tapping in just a little bit of pink blush on our penguin. After you've tapped that in, you're going to clean your brush out, and with a damp brush, so meaning clean your brush out and then wipe it on a paper towel so there's not too much water left on your brush. Then you can come back and just wipe around the edges of that pink in order to blend it out and pick up any excess water that is on your page from the pink. And once you've shaped up those cheeks, you can just leave it right there to dry. You don't want to touch it anymore because we want this to just dry in a very soft way. While the penguin's face is drying, we're going to begin painting in the black area of his body. We're going to begin with our black paint in a bit of a milky-like mixture. So we're not doing a super dark layer yet. We're just doing a nice dark gray layer with our black paint, and we're going to paint all around the belly of our penguin. And as we do this, you can see that if you happen to go over the line in some of the areas when you're painting the penguin's belly, it's not going to matter now because this paint will be very dark and it will cover up any of that colorful belly that you accidentally went outside the lines with. So we're just going to continue on and paint in our penguin's feet and alongside of his belly. So just carefully fill all of that in. After you've finished painting the bottom of the penguin's belly, and while the paint is still wet, we're going to come in with some thicker, darker black paint again on this, we're going to start on the left side because that's going to be our darkest side. And we're going to paint a second layer of black paint over the last layer that we painted. When we get down to the feet, we're going to paint the penguin's feet, but we want to leave a little bit of the grayer layer showing through along the edge of the penguin's feet, and this will help give him some definition to his feet and some form to his feet. Okay, and once you finish that second layer, we're going to come back with yet another layer of black paint to really darken up. This will be our third and final layer on the penguin along the left side. This layer, we're not going to bring this layer all the way over to the right side. We're just going to bring it about 3/4 of the way around the penguin, and this will really help show the roundness of the penguin. After you finish painting in the lower portion of the penguin, you may want to allow him to dry for a few minutes so that you can avoid accidentally touching your paint and smearing it. I've let my penguin dry, and I'm actually going to begin turning my penguin side to side as we continue painting around the penguin, just to allow myself to have a better angle to paint him. So again, we're going to come in with really dark black paint, and starting on the left side, paint in the penguin's arm. Once the penguin's arm is all painted in, I'm going to continue by rotating my paper around and continuing up the left side of the penguin's face all the way to the top of his head. I'm going to fast forward a little bit here as this area is painted in just a solid black until you get to the midline nose area of your penguin. As we approach the nose with our paint, we're going to make sure that we keep the left side of our nose darker than the right side. So to do this, I'm just beginning to paint in a line along the left side of the nose, and then I just come back a little higher to the midline of the nose, but I don't paint it all in dark. We're going to leave it that way, and then I'm going to come back with a brush that's just clean and then blend out the edge of that so that I can achieve having the right side of the nose lighter and the dark side of the nose darker rather. You can see how I've left just a little bit of gap of white on the nose. I am going to paint over that with water later, and again, this will achieve a look of having dimension to the nose because the left side will be slightly darker than the right side. Also, if you just want to paint over this area completely with black, that is totally fine too, because this is your penguin. You can make him your own, and he will look just fine that way as well. As we paint in the right side of our penguin, you're going to notice that I leave a bit of a white line along the right side of my penguin, and then I will come back and blend out the edge of my paint to leave a bit of a gray line before the penguin goes completely black. You can do this, or optionally, you can just fill him in completely black. He'll look cute either way. Now that my penguin is completely painted in, I'm going to darken up the left side of my penguin a little bit more before the paint dries. This just means that you can pick up the same mixture you had, which will double up the paint, or you can pick up a slightly thicker mixture of paint and just paint over the area along the right side closest to the white of the penguin. This is going to really darken things up. Now that our penguin is all darkened up, I'm coming back with just a clean brush with just a little bit of water on it and scrubbing the area at the nose to just blend out the paint over that white area. I'm also doing the same thing along the right side where I had a white line. I'm just blending out the paint with some water. Now that he's all painted in, we can begin painting his eyes. We're going to begin with a really thick black paint, and we're going to paint along the bottom half of that inner eye, leaving that little round circle completely white. We want to paint around that. I'm not filling in the entire part of the eye. I'm filling in the edges and the bottom half of the eye with black, and then we will come back with a clean brush and just blend out that black so that we have a little bit of a darker black toward the bottom and a lighter black toward the top. And it just wouldn't be one of my tutorials if I didn't mess up something. So as you can see below the eye, there's a little bit of black coming out of the line. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a really small brush with a little bit of water on it, and I'm just running the brush along the area where I want to pick the paint up. I'm not using a towel here because it is such a tiny area, but you can just use a really tiny brush or just the tip of your brush and gently rub the brush along that area, and it should lift up the paint for you. Okay, we're almost finished. The last step is to paint the snow below our sweet skiing penguin. To do this, we're going to start with some clean water. We're going to brush some clean water on the area of the snow below our penguin. And once that area is completely wet, we're going to start to drop in some color because there's nothing more beautiful than colorful snow. The first color we're going to drop in is some yellow, and we're going to do this on the right side. So you're going to think of it as kind of the yellow that's on the belly of the penguin reflecting onto the snow. And we're going to just, once we drop that in, we will just brush it out a little bit with the brush to provide a nice soft edge since snow is soft. Next, we're going to add some blue, and again, we will just blend out the edges of our blue. And then lastly, along the left side, we're going to add some purple. And that's it for our sweet little skiing penguin. This was so much fun, and I bet that your penguin looks amazing. I cannot wait to see what you've painted. If you can tag me on Instagram with your creations, you can tag me at Noda NYC. I would love to see what you painted with this tutorial. Again, if you can like this video and comment and subscribe, that helps me out a ton so that I can keep putting up these tutorials. Also, if you would like to purchase your own card kit, leave a comment below, or you can visit my Etsy shop to purchase these cards. If you made it this far in the video, congratulations, and thank you all. Happy painting!